Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to review Beyond Skyline, the science fiction sequel to 2010's Skyline. Now this is kind of the sequel that nobody wanted, I suppose. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Skyline was a fairly underwhelming movie. I do remember watching it and I remember kind of shrugging the shoulders and thinking that was alright, but it wasn't anything special at all, and I certainly didn't expect a sequel. But we've got one, and it stars Frank Grillo, and it is actually a very good film, and in a lot of ways, much better than the first. It's one of those rarities where the sequel outshines the original movie, and I would sum this movie up by saying that it's actually an action thrill ride that is impossible to dislike. That's not to say it doesn't have its issues or some faults, as minor as they are, but it is a very good movie. And what we get with this movie is Frank Grillo's character is a cop. We don't learn much more about him other than he has a son that he has to get from his local police station who's got in trouble. And then very quickly, boom, the aliens arrive, as they did in the first one. Um, Everyone gets sucked up to the mothership, as they do in the first one, and Frank Grillo's character, his son, and a small group of others who are on an underground train survive and have to figure out how to stay alive, figure out what's going on, and ultimately um, they get sucked up into the ship. They've got to try to escape, and then the action shifts to like a South American jungle and the second half of the movie. I don't want to say much more about the story here because it's nothing mind-blowingly good, the story, but it's best watch this movie when you go in um, with very few ideas of what's going to go on in this movie. Needless to say that, like I say, I really enjoyed this movie. I think if you are a fan of the first movie, and I don't imagine there's a huge, you know, fan base of the first movie, but if you really enjoyed the first one and you're worried here, they actually do tie this film together with the first one really quite well. And they finish the story off in the first one. I think in a way that would please any fans of the first movie. Put it that way. It does, for me. It reminded me a little bit of the War of the Worlds movie, the Steven Spielberg one with Tom Cruise. Frank Grillo's character was a little bit like the Tom Cruise character in War of the Worlds. It's told from his perspective rather from this large military standpoint perspective. So it's like focused in on his story, which I thought helped the movie. The effects I thought were very good for a movie that hasn't had a cinema release. It's got a very good budget, this, and some of the practical and CGI effects all work. There's only a couple of occasions where I think they try and put too much on the screen at once and it kind of fails a little bit. But overall, very good effects, I have to say. Um, like I said, the first half of the movie it focuses on the city, and the second half it focuses on like a South American jungle. Now, initially, I was a bit unhappy with the shift in the jungle setting. I thought it slowed the movie down initially, but after 10-15 minutes of that slowdown, it ramps it straight back up again. So it doesn't spoil it. I was a bit worried it was going to do for me, but it doesn't at all. It just kind of gives you 5-10 minutes to take a breath, take in this next part of the movie, bang, it's off again. Yeah, actually, there was elements of this movie as well that reminded me a little bit of V, the miniseries from the 80s. And by that I mean like the Star Child storyline that they used in V. And if you've seen V, you'll know what I mean. And they kind of do something a little bit similar here. And I don't think it worked in V, and I don't think it particularly works here as well. That's all I'll say. It kind of confuses the story a little bit, and it doesn't really answer any real questions. But the ending leaves it wide open for more movies. Very wide open. And overall, I have to say this was an excellent movie. Like I say, an action fest. If you've been hankering to see aliens fighting one on one with like martial artists, then this is going to give you everything you've been looking for in a movie. Really, it's great how they do blend all these different cinema styles into this science fiction. The action is well choreographed. The effects, like I say, are excellent. Frank Grillo makes a compelling lead. I really quite like Frank Grillo. I think everything I've seen him in, he's been standout basically. And again, he does a really, really good job here, and he carries this movie really, really well. He's a very good leading man, I think, and he probably deserves a few more shots in Hollywood. And you may recognise him for things like the Avengers movie. He was in the Avengers movie, and he was in the Warrior movie, the UFC type movie. But very good. I enjoyed his performance, and everybody else is very good in this movie. There's no weak performances here, and I have to say there's not a lot of weaknesses I can give to this movie. I had a thrilling time watching it, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I recommend you get this watched.